She says she likes you, but pulls away when you get close. She texts you one day like you're everything, then disappears the next, like you never existed. You lie awake asking yourself, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth. It's not about what you did. It's about what she's trying to control. See, mixed signals are not confusion. They are strategy. Maybe not always conscious, but deeply psychological. When a woman sends you mixed signals, she's doing one of two things: testing your emotional stability or trying to gain leverage over your attention. Either way, you lose when you start chasing clarity, because the moment you start needing answers, you hand over power. Control in relationships doesn't always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like mystery. It looks like, I'm not sure what she wants from me, but you still wait for her reply. That's the moment you're trapped, not by her words, but by your own thoughts. You become addicted to inconsistency. Every little moment of warmth feels like victory. Every silence feels like punishment. That's not love, that's psychological conditioning. This is how emotional power works. The one who's unpredictable controls the rhythm. The one who overthinks becomes the follower. And when you're caught in that loop, your brain starts associating chaos with desire. You start believing that uncertainty means intensity, that her pulling away makes her valuable. But what's really happening is your self-worth being rewired. Women don't send mixed signals because they're evil. They do it because it works. It keeps your focus on them. It feeds their validation. It makes them feel wanted without ever having to commit emotionally. And the more you chase, the less she has to give. She can feel powerful without vulnerability, safe yet desired. But here's the hardest truth. If you don't learn to stay grounded when a woman becomes inconsistent, you'll never experience real peace in dating. Because the game isn't about what she says or does. It's about whether you let her behavior define your sense of worth. When a woman sends you mixed signals, what she's really doing is creating uncertainty. And uncertainty is the most powerful psychological trigger in human attraction. Your brain is wired to chase what feels inconsistent. It's the same principle that keeps people addicted to slot machines, unpredictable rewards. You never know when the payoff will come, so you keep playing. You keep investing. You keep hoping the next text, the next smile, the next touch will mean something real. She doesn't even have to plan it consciously. Some women learn this naturally. They sense how pulling away makes you chase harder, how short bursts of warmth make you hold on longer. It's not manipulation in a cartoonish way. It's emotional instinct, control through contrast. And every time she gives you just enough to keep you guessing, she trains your nervous system to crave her inconsistency. The real danger is not her behavior, it's your response to it. You start internalizing the pattern. When she withdraws, you panic. When she returns, you feel relief. That relief becomes addictive. It feels like love because it's intense, but it's not love. It's dependency. And the more you feed it, the more power she gains without even asking for it. Now imagine this. The moment you stop reacting to her inconsistency, the game collapses, because control only exists if you play along. When you become emotionally neutral, calm, grounded, unmoved, her power fades. The attention she used to command effortlessly no longer gives her the same satisfaction. She'll start questioning her own influence. That's when everything shifts. Here's what most men never realize. A woman will always respect the man she cannot emotionally manipulate. Not the man who reacts to her silence, but the man who remains silent with purpose. Not the one who begs for clarity, but the one who walks away from confusion. Because emotional control isn't about ignoring women. It's about showing that your peace isn't negotiable. There's something magnetic about the man who doesn't chase clarity. He doesn't rush to decode every text, doesn't crumble when a woman pulls back, and doesn't hand over his emotional balance to someone else's moods. That man radiates something women can't fake: emotional stability. And that's the rarest form of power in modern relationships. You see, when a woman sends mixed signals, she's subconsciously looking for your emotional center. She's asking, can this man handle my uncertainty without losing himself? It's not about the surface. It's about how you respond under tension. Do you stay calm when she withdraws? Or do you spiral into self-doubt, questioning every detail of your last conversation? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The way you react in those moments tells her everything about you. If she senses that her silence makes you panic, that her inconsistency makes you chase, she knows she has emotional leverage. Not because she's cruel, but because deep down, women feel safest around men who can't be shaken by emotion. It's psychological security. When you're the man who needs reassurance, she becomes your emotional compass, and that kills attraction. But when you stand firm in silence, when you don't demand explanations, when your energy says, "I'm good either way," her instinct changes. Suddenly, she doesn't feel in control anymore. And here's where the real twist happens. The very same woman who once gave you mixed signals starts craving your approval. Because women are drawn to masculine calm the way fire is drawn to oxygen. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. You stop reacting emotionally, and you start influencing emotionally. That's when she begins to question her own games. Why isn't he chasing me? Why doesn't he care? Has he moved on? The silence that once belonged to her now belongs to you. That's how control flips. The game she used to play loses its power because you've stepped out of it. You've stopped fighting for her attention, and that's when she starts fighting for your focus. It's not about manipulation, it's about emotional mastery. And the man who masters that never has to chase again. Every man has felt that ache, that restless need to fix things when a woman becomes distant. It's almost instinctive. You sense her pulling away, so you reach out more. You explain yourself. You try to make her understand how much you care. But here's the paradox. The more effort you show, the less she feels. Because what she's really reacting to isn't your affection. It's your emotional imbalance. A woman can sense desperation long before you realize you're showing it. It's not in your words, it's in your energy. The constant checking of your phone, the anxious tone in your messages, the subtle way your confidence starts fading. That's when attraction begins to erode. Not because she stopped liking you, but because you stopped being a challenge. You gave her the map to your emotions, every reaction, every weakness, every time you needed reassurance. And now, she doesn't have to wonder. And when there's nothing to wonder about, there's nothing left to feel deeply. Women are drawn to mystery, not confusion. There's a difference. Mystery is controlled silence, confidence wrapped in restraint. Confusion is chaos, insecurity dressed as effort. When you start trying to decode every mixed signal, you unknowingly become predictable, and predictability kills the emotional spark that once made her curious. That's why silence is such a weapon, because it doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it forces her to sit in uncertainty. And that discomfort makes her think about you, the same way you once overthought her. The silence reverses the power dynamic. Suddenly she starts replaying moments in her mind, wondering what she did wrong, questioning if you've lost interest, or worse, if you've moved on. But to pull this off, your silence has to come from strength, not spite. It's not about punishing her, it's about protecting your peace. You don't withdraw because you're hurt. You withdraw because you refuse to be emotionally manipulated. That kind of silence radiates dominance, not aggression, but quiet certainty. When you stop trying to fix her mixed signals and start standing firm in your own, something powerful happens. She starts to see you differently. She feels your absence like pressure. She realizes your attention was a privilege, not a guarantee. Because women are drawn to masculine calm the way fire is drawn to oxygen. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. You stop reacting emotionally and you start influencing emotionally. That's when she begins to question her own games. Why isn't he chasing me? Why doesn't he care? Has he moved on? The silence that once belonged to her now belongs to you. That's how control flips. The game she used to play loses its power because you've stepped out of it. You've stopped fighting for her attention, and that's when she starts fighting for your focus. It's not about manipulation, it's about emotional mastery, and the man who masters that never has to chase again. Here's what most men never see coming. The moment your energy changes, hers does too. When you stop reacting, she starts reflecting. When you stop chasing, she starts questioning. That's the invisible switch in psychology that flips everything. Suddenly, the silence that once made you anxious now makes her uneasy. She starts to wonder if she went too far, if she lost her grip on you, if the power she once held just vanished overnight. You see, women are emotional mirrors. They project what they feel safe expressing, and they reflect what they sense in you. When you were desperate, she mirrored detachment. When you became calm, she started feeling uncertainty. It's not manipulation, it's nature's emotional balance. Her subconscious starts to crave your attention again because attention is validation, and validation equals control. But when she can't find that control anymore, her mind turns on itself. Why isn't he chasing me? Did I push him away? Has he found someone else? That's when she reaches out. Not because she suddenly realized your worth, but because she wants to feel emotionally centered again. Your silence disrupted her equilibrium. You became the unpredictable one, the mystery she can't read. And remember, the human mind craves certainty, especially a woman's emotional mind. When you stop providing it, she has to seek it. But here's where most men fail. They break the silence too soon. The moment she sends that "hey" or that soft little check-in text, they rush back in thinking, she missed me. But that instant reaction kills all progress, because the silence was what gave you power. The mystery was what reignited attraction. When you reply too fast, you remind her of who you were, the predictable man whose emotions she could control. The key is discipline. You don't respond from emotion, you respond from position. You decide if her message earns your attention. You decide if she's consistent this time, not just curious. That's emotional leadership. That's masculine energy. And when you learn to hold that silence long enough, not to punish her but to protect your peace, you stop being an option in her life. You become the standard she measures every man against. Because nothing haunts a woman more than a man who mastered the art of not needing her response. There's a moment every man reaches, that quiet, powerful realization that he no longer needs to chase what's uncertain. That's when you stop fighting for attention and start valuing your peace. You see, women who send mixed signals don't just test your patience, they test your self-respect. And the way you respond determines whether you remain trapped in their emotional cycle or rise above it completely. When you stop reacting, you're not just ignoring her, you're teaching yourself discipline. You're learning that silence is more powerful than words, that peace is more attractive than pressure, and that not every connection deserves your energy. That's emotional evolution. You're no longer led by your impulses or her inconsistency. You've become the observer, not the pawn. And something incredible happens when you reach that level. The same woman who once confused you now sees you as unshakable. You've become unpredictable, not because you play games, but because you don't. You've learned that real control isn't about dominating anyone. It's about being unmovable. Calm men are rare, and in a world full of emotional chaos, rarity creates value. Understand this. Your silence, your restraint, your refusal to over-explain, all of that radiates strength. It tells her, I don't chase confusion. I attract peace. And that's the kind of energy that women, even the most emotionally complex ones, can't resist. Because every woman wants to feel safe around a man who's not controlled by emotion, who's steady no matter what storm she creates. So the next time she sends mixed signals, the hot and cold texts, the pull and push games, the silence after affection, don't react. Observe, smile. Let her reveal who she really is. Because the man who stays silent sees everything. He doesn't argue, he understands.